Hello and welcome to the CinemATL Podcast. The CinemATL Podcast is a weekly podcast that examines the world of entertainment through the lens of local Atlanta filmmakers. That would be us, your hosts. I'm Michael D. Freeman, and that is...
Martin Kelly.
And this week, Spider-Man No Way Home debuted in theaters and it had the second highest ever box office opening, which is pretty crazy considering the environment that we're in today. Since this film was filmed mostly in Atlanta, we thought we would review it, and it's getting rave reviews. Do we agree? Well, we'll find out. But first, we actually have some important news to share about the future of the CinemATL podcast.
Yes, this is usually when I tell you need to subscribe and listen and share and all that. But what I'm going to say now is this is kind of an end of an era. This is going to be the final episode of the CinemATL podcast, at least in its current form. We're going to be taking a hiatus, and we're going to be looking at ways to retool the show and figure out how we're going to come back. And so this will be the last official sort of CinemATL podcast in this form or fashion. But I think it's pretty, it's a pretty good way to end it on a movie that was filmed mostly in Atlanta, because that's been, our focus for all these years for this particular version.
Yeah, and we've done this podcast for over 6 years now, hard to believe, and 120 episodes. This is the 120th, and we've been running it for practically weekly for the past 2 years. We've had some breaks here and there, but it just kind of felt like time for a break, and see what else we can do out there, and try to make everything better and more engaging for the audience.
Yeah, I think that's what we really want to do, is figure out a way to retool it and make it, update it so where we get a lot more connection to all of the people who have listened and to even more people along the way. And so we're going to really think hard on it and figure out the best way we think we can bring ourselves back to connect with you guys on these kind of topics. And, but before we do go, we want to thank everybody that has joined us on this journey. And again, we just think it's been a great run so far, and we want to take things into a new direction. So we're going to be taking a little bit of time to figure out what that new direction is, and we will let you know.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what it's going to be yet. It may not be a podcast. It may be something else. It may not even be CinemATL. It might be something else. But Martin and I, we both enjoy talking about movies way too much to let this be the official end. So we'll definitely let you guys know when we figure out what's going on next. But I mean, I think, if we're going to go out, let's go out with a big blockbuster movie like Spider-Man No Way Home. So why don't we get into the meat of our episode right now? All right, so the big movie review. Let's talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. And here's a brief synopsis if you're one of the few people out there that don't know about this movie. It's kind of weird if you don't. But anyway, right. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, our friendly neighborhood web slinger is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life as Peter Parker from the high stakes of being a superhero. When Peter asks for help from Dr. Strange, the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. So we're going to jump into this review. I'm giving you a quick spoiler warning, but first we're going to do a basic review with no spoilers. But to really do this film justice, we really do need to talk about spoilers, because otherwise we're not going to be able to talk about the main points of the movie. So
absolutely,
we're going to do a brief overview and give our quick reaction and quick review and give it a rating, and then we're going to jump into some spoilers.
Definitely. But first, before we even start the review piece, let's talk about, some of the people involved with the film. So this was directed by John Watts, who has done Spider-Man before. He did both Homecoming and Far From Home. Mm-hmm. The screenplay was written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers. They also wrote the other Spider-Man movies, Homecoming and Far From Home. Also Ant-Man and even Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then even Jumanji, the reboot of Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
So they got
And then
experience with blockbusters, is what
they
you're saying.
definitely do. They've made a lot of big movies. And then the cinematographer, Mario Fiore, actually, has a very interesting sort of track record. He's done everything from Avatar to Smoking Aces, which was a very interesting film. So he's got a lot of experience. Of course, the cast: Tom Holland comes back as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Zendaya comes back as MJ. Jacob Batalon comes back as the best buddy, Ned.
The man in the
Uh,
chair.
the man in the chair. That's right. Benedict Cumberbatch crosses over into the Spider-Verse. Well, I mean, the MCU is its own universe, but he crosses into the Sony realm of Marvel, which as Doctor Strange, of course, reprising his role. The great Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, or just May. They actually don't call her Aunt May much. Jon Favreau, of course, who kicked the whole MCU off. This current version, he's reprising his Happy Hogan role. Speaking of reprising, Benedict Wong plays Wong from, again, the Doctor Strange films, as well as he was just in Shang-Chi as well. And then there's some other folks that we might mention once we get to spoilers.
Right. Yeah. We don't let the cat out of the bag. So real quick, let's just give our quick review and give our rating so that the people that may not want to stick around for spoilers can come back later and listen to our spoiler review. So
Definitely.
for me, I thought this was a really great addition to the Spider-Man world. It was one of the films that had the most weight to it in this new trilogy. You really felt like it was the Peter Parker origin story that we didn't get. The other Spider-Mans all went through the getting bit by the spider and then having the lesson and what it means to have great responsibility. But this one is where we finally see not necessarily the spider bite. That's already happened, but this is kind of where Peter Parker grows up and figures out how to become a hero. And I really appreciate it at that level. So it definitely felt the most weighty, but it was also a ton of fun. There's a lot of great surprises in it. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's moments you'll have you cheering, especially if you are familiar with the MCU and the history. I just really enjoyed it, and it was it had the most balance of any of the Spider-Man movies, and I love the Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man: Homecoming is one of my favorite Marvel movies, and I felt this one was even better than Spider-Man: Homecoming, and in that regard, and so because it felt fun and fresh, but it also had weight to it, and it was really Peter Parker's story. Where a lot of the other films, and that's been a kind of complaint about Homecoming and Far From Home, was that he was always living in Iron Man's shadows or other people's shadows, and this one he comes to the forefront and is really about him and his relationships. And I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an A.
Wow. I think that may be your highest grade. I don't know.
Might be my highest grade.
Close. It's close to it, other than, maybe when we talked about Atomic Blonde, you may grade that higher. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you at all, honestly. Most of what you said, I really endorse, especially the part about maturity, right? And what you said about weightiness is in his sort of transition into near adulthood. He takes on a maturity level that allows him to actually really be a hero. And so I really appreciated that piece about, that part about this, movie, is that they really bring that to full circle. Like you mentioned, his other movies, he's been the sort of the talented, kid, but not really aware of what his choices will mean and how he has to take responsibility for his actions, in a real way. I mean, he's done it, he's messed up a few times in the other ones, in the other movies, but it never had the stakes of kind of this, you know what I mean, in terms of the what it means to his life and even to the world in some ways. So I did appreciate the weightiness of it. Like you mentioned, I think Tom Holland has really grown into the role really well. I think he did a fantastic job. And of course, Zendaya and from everyone else, I think did a fantastic job. And we'll get into some of the other people who are in it.
Right.
But yeah, Jacob, of course, has been fun as Ned, and yet even he grows as a character in this, and MJ too. Like, for instance, Zendaya's performance was really
Right.
neat, because I think she's an engaging presence, and she's fantastic in the other film, but this one she really kind of grows into the MJ character in a new and refreshing way, and sort of creates a lot of really good sparks,
Yeah.
for the film. And again,
I would have to credit like both, not only the actors, but just the writing in this is this. It gives the characters more. It gives the actors more to work with for these characters, and to really make you feel the characters' emotions. And it's something we haven't had in the other ones, even though they're fun. They don't really delve into that. So
true, yeah, exactly. I think that's right on point. There are some things that the writing is kind of strange in ways, but we will talk about that in
is
the
it Strange or Doctor Strange?
Yeah, well, I'm saying like
fun,
there's some odd things that happen in the story that you could question if you really wanted to, but I don't want to, because I just like having fun. But then at the same time, even how fun this is, you're right, it's still invested with a lot of emotion and feeling, which I appreciated. So I'm going to give it an A as well.
Nice. Well, I think we should jump into the spoilers. But if you have not seen the film yet and don't want to be spoiled, please leave now.
There's kind of a caveat. It's like if you've seen some of the trailers, we won't be spoiling a lot, because some of the trailers gave away some of what we're going to talk about. But yes, if you haven't seen the movie itself, there's still some things to be spoiled. So that's the fair warning.
The fair warning. And if you are jumping out now, we do want to say goodbye to you guys and thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure, but we'll get to that in the wrap up. But come back after you've seen the movie, and then you can hear our wrap up of the CinemATL podcast. But
absolutely, the official wrap up,
official goodbyes. So yes, let's go into spoilers. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this movie does. Final chance to jump off now.
Yeah, get out. No, but this movie just comes to full fruition. The idea of a multiverse, right? Is that what it's called? A multiverse, right?
Yes, a multiverse.
And so full on multiverse is starting to happen in this film, and it allows for so many possibilities, and then that's what really creates the fun of the film, is that, especially if like this, if you're younger and you've never seen the other Spider-Man movies, then maybe this is lost on you. Right. But for people who've seen the other iterations of Spider-Man, this is really rewarding. This whole multiverse concept.
Well, the fact that they can relive like former versions of this franchise in this film, it's like fan service to the ultimate level, but it's fan service done right, I believe. Like, I was worried because I had kind of heard the spoilers that I'm just going to say it, that Tobey and Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were in this movie, revisiting their old Spider-Man roles. I was worried that it would just be fan service and not really take full advantage of this, but they really do make it about it's a celebration of the Spider-Man film franchise is really what it is. And it comes back to those old characters and wraps them into the world of the MCU, and it makes it when people talk about rebooting films and soft reboots and sequels and hard reboots and all these things, it's just kind of cool that they could get them all together and say, hey, these all like really happened in this world. You know what I mean? Like they're not
Right, right.
forgotten about. They're still relevant to the entire Marvel universe. That's really
No,
cool. That's just really awesome.
I agree, and that's what's so really cool about it is that and I'm not a comic book person, but I can appreciate what comic book people must feel about this. Is that there's so many different versions of these characters in the comic books over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and then the movies, of course, are based on particular versions, particular runs. Even this is based on a particular run, right?
Right.
But the fact that you get to tie them together and then really appreciate that this character does exist in all the incarnations, right? And then what I was afraid of is that it would be kind of a wink and a nod
Right.
only.
Right.
I knew that they were. I mean, I kind of knew that they were going to be in the movie. I knew that
Right.
going in, but the fact that they're actually integral to the movie itself is really cool.
I mean, they're basically there for the whole third act, and they're important to the plot.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
and our Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, learns valuable lessons from them. And can I just say that I thought that Andrew Garfield's performance in this was just terrific. Like I think
Absolutely.
like the people that bag on the Amazing Spider-Man movies, Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man, even back then when it was rebooted and people are like, well, why are they rebooting this and why are they doing this? And it's not as good as the Tobey Maguire and blah, blah, blah. I think he got a bum rap, but Andrew Garfield really redeems that character and gives weight to that character. And you can see, the arc where he, he lost Gwen in his timeline, but can save MJ in this timeline. It's just like,
right.
It's great.
I
loved it.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, I think Andrew Garfield is completely underrated as an actor. Honestly, I think people think of him as the sidekick in The Social Network, and that's about it. But this guy he's great. Andrew Garfield is really good. And yeah, you're right. His performance redeems that character. It redeems. I mean, it's just fun too. It's not like, it's all serious and he's redeeming the Amazing Spider-Man character.
Yeah.
It's super fun still.
Yeah, he's the most fun out of the three of them, I think too. Like, I mean, like he gets a lot of good lines and a lot of good reactions, and it's just, I was like, oh man, I want to see the third Amazing Spider-Man movie now.
Well, I kind of don't, but I wouldn't mind.
Don't really, but
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind the Spider-Verse being part of something, that keeps going. It might be cool.
Right. And to keep continuing on the acting tangent, I wanted to say, like, and this goes into my next point, was also about Peter's journey and him becoming, like you said, like stepping out of coming into a man. Like those moments, like especially when May dies in the film and he has that moment with her, it's just, well, we've already said the spoiler warning, so if you're listening now, this is all your fault. But yeah, I mean, that was just so heartbreaking and so well done. Like,
yeah, totally.
Tom Holland's performance and Marissa Tomei's performance in that scene was just devastatingly good.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I just loved it. And then the emotional thing at the end when Peter sacrifices himself and he sees his friends, but he knows that they're better off
if he doesn't. Exactly.
Reveal this to them. It's heartbreaking and Zendaya is awesome in that scene where
she's so amazing in that scene in particular, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it is very, very well done and very heartfelt. Those scenes in particular, for sure. And that's what's really cool is that we're talking about how fun it was to have Toby and Andrew reprise their Spider-Man roles. And then not to mention all the villains from all the other movies too. And who
talked about them,
yeah, we haven't talked about them. They do great. But in all of that, Tom Holland still anchors this movie with a fantastic version of Peter Parker. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I mean about, like, it's fan service, but done right. It's like you get all these characters in it from the previous movies, but it is still Tom Holland's movie. It is still, everything revolves around his character.
Yes. And more so, even more so than the other movies that didn't have all this weight. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which, yeah.
And I would say also Willem Dafoe excellent yet again. As the Green Goblin, I loved him again.
I liked Alfred Molina the best
Alfred
of the
Molina was
villains.
great too. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I think they were all really good. Jamie Foxx was different than his Electro and Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I think for the better. But it's also, like you mentioned, some of the stuff that was just kind of strange about the film was that his character is completely different.
Right,
So
right,
maybe
right.
he was from a different multiverse, is what I'm kind of thinking. You could explain it that way.
Wow, yeah. That's
Um,
an idea, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
I don't know.
But yeah. I mean, again, yeah, nobody disappoints. Nobody disappoints in this movie. You're right. I mean, Jamie Foxx plays Electro a lot different, in this version than the other version. But like you said, Willem Dafoe was very good as uh man, I'm
Green
blanking.
Goblin,
Green Goblin.
Norman
Right.
Osborn.
Yeah, Norman Osborn. And yeah, everyone did so good, but then again, it's all about our Peter Parker in this version of this current version of the MCU. And then what I thought about, when I want to say things were odd was like, I think the conceit is what's really the oddest thing.
Right.
I think if once you get past it, which I'm willing to get past it, and most fans will be willing to get past it, the idea that he's like, this is the answer to his problems, which I get it, short-sighted. He's still early in the movie. He's still that young Peter Parker, right?
Right.
But then that Doctor Strange is like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh, let's do it. This is not my Doctor Strange from the other movie,
It is very, very strange. Not to be pun, but yeah, his behavior is not the Doctor Strange that we know.
Right. Yeah.
And so, in fact, so much so that people saw the trailer, they were like, "Oh, that's Mephisto," But you need to be, like it's somebody else. It's not really Doctor Strange. It's going to be the twist, and it wasn't.
Or is it the other Doctor Strange that we saw in the version of the animated series?
And what if?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but did you see? Let's talk about the end credits scene, which is actually the final end credits is really more of a trailer for the new Doctor Strange movie, and it looks like that the what if
that
Doctor
version
Strange
is
in there.
It does look like he is, yeah.
Kind of interesting.
But I actually don't think this is that what if.
Right.
But at the same time, you do have to question, like, where did this Doctor Strange come from? Because he's certainly not the one that we saw in the first Doctor Strange movie, or even in like Infinity War and Endgame, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was, I brought this up several times before, but the pitch sessions that they do, Screen Rant.
No,
they did one for this, and one of the things, and it was like, yeah, so basically they're just shitting on Doctor Strange's magic, like this whole movie, because like he's just like kind of incompetent, and then you have Ned who is able to like create portals when it took Doctor Strange like years to master.
Right.
Just because he's got magic in his blood or whatever. Yeah, so some of that, yeah, I agree, is kind of a cheat to get into the heart of the film. But if you get on board, it's worth the ride, right?
So, exactly. Because I mean, you just forgive all that weird stuff because it allows you to get to full on multiverse, which is so rewarding to have these Sinister Six villains, and B, the two other Spider-Man versions, you know what I mean, come into this world, and that's so rewarding that you're like, okay, fine, we'll let Doctor Strange be a little loopy, right, to get to that,
And I would also want to say that like this, like visually, this is like the most impressive Spider-Man out there, especially like when they go into the mirror universe. I think we'd seen that in Doctor Strange, but it's even like taken to the next level in this. And then also the de-aging that they used on Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe. I mean, that was
amazing.
Notch. I mean, you don't see any of the complaints that you see like for like, I don't want to give a spoiler away, but something in the Star Wars universe with the de-aging or other things that have
even other things
before. It was just dead on. Like you didn't feel
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like they were just younger.
Yeah, absolutely. They're straight. That's '90s versions of these guys,
Right.
basically, and or 2000s. I forget, but yeah, I mean it was it was impressive because it was not a distraction at all. You know, but
And
yeah,
actually, you know what? One of the main things that I cheered about the most and fanboyed out about the most in this film, though, was at the beginning when Matt Murdock is representing them.
oh yeah, yeah.
That was just that was just so cool to me. It's like, okay, not only are they bringing all the Spider-Man
Yep,
universes together, they're bringing the Netflix shows into the
yep,
MCU.
yep. Definitely,
And there's
definitely,
other
and
points where they're coming into the MCU. I'm not going to. That's
yeah,
another
yeah,
spoiler for not something else, but this
completely,
is
yeah,
really cool that now they're bringing all these things together, and with the multiverse, anything is possible. This is not even multiverse related. The fact that
right,
Daredevil's
right,
there and he's been in the MCU this whole time, and they're now finally acknowledging it that the Netflix movies are in the MCU, even though they kind of acknowledge it in the Netflix movies, but it was never
right,
official,
right,
right? So
right.
it's really awesome that they did that, and they had Charlie Cox playing them and everything like that. So that's as a fanboy, that's just like made me cheer. Probably
Yeah,
I
that's kind
cheered
of
more
cool.
for that than anything else because that I wasn't expecting that one.
Right, right. No, yeah, I think I heard a rumor that it was possible,
I
but
heard a
yeah, I
rumor,
mean,
but I that out of all the rumors, I didn't think it was true. And
oh,
that
okay.
one they managed to hide from the public enough that I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. He is in it." Yes.
No, it was cool. It was definitely cool too, for sure. But yeah, I mean, again, once you get past the weird setup to allow the multiverse to happen, everything else is just really good, really well done. And again, I can't say enough about how well the young the young talent was able to hold their own against everyone else. I mean, like think about the murderer's row of the cast. Honestly,
Right.
once you
Right.
get into the multiverse and you allow, talents like Jamie Foxx, Reese and Fiennes, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina. You know what I mean? All the fantastic actors, the original nostalgic Spider-Man, right? And then
Right.
but yet, Zendaya and Tom Holland just holding their own and keeping the movie grounded in their story and their relationship and everything else. And Marissa Tomei, of course, but you know what I mean. It's just a testament to how well they do their job, as their characters. And again, give credit to the writers too, because they made up for that weird setup by investing in those moments that we talked about, having all that gravity,
Right.
and stakes for the characters. So, you know, good job all around. Is just, and again, just fun. I think this is, and I'm so glad it's doing well. I mean, I'm shocked at how well it is doing,
Right.
but this is kind of the perfect movie to do well because it's just fun. It's fun. I mean, I don't see anybody who wouldn't have fun watching this if they have any interest in Spider-Man at all.
Well, all right. I think we're pretty much to the end. I just wanted to think of just one more thing before we wrap it up. I would just like, what do you think, based off the ending, where do you think they go from here?
That's really interesting because, I was a little that's one of the things I was actually surprised about because I was so invested in him coming coming back and doing a sort of eternal sunshine moment with Zendaya.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe it is happening in a subtle way, but I was like, he's just gonna come out and convince her, and get her back. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I was so invested in that, I was thrown off by it. But then it does make sense. It does make sense. And so I think we may get, a new Spider-Man, for a while who is trying to really forge his own identity as a superhero.
Mhm.
In his carve out his own path because, like you said, he's no longer got Tony Stark, behind him. You know what I mean? He's no longer got, um, even though he had been an Avenger, he doesn't have that sort of. It seemed like he
Right.
doesn't have that affiliation anymore, right? And so he's got to stand on his own for real. And I think that's what we'll get next in terms of the Spider-Man piece of it.
Yeah, I would like to see a street level Spider-Man, right? Like like you talk about the Netflix shows, but like bring it into that more street level Spider-Man where he's fighting not these global stakes or these universal stakes, where
Right,
it's
right.
just Spider-Man having to fight the bad guys in New York, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Totally.
let's take it back to that level. And I don't know. It's like, do you need to keep ratcheting it up, or can you go back down to that level? That'd be interesting to see.
See
Because I
that
think
that is
I think they set it up perfectly for that. But will they
yeah,
get it?
but then I mean, here's the opposite. Like here's the movie, the producer mind is like,
Right.
we just had the second biggest opening of all time, and now we're gonna have him battle street thugs.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think so. Like if I'm the producer, I'm like, hell no, we're gonna figure out a way to raise the stakes again. But like you said, I definitely, I definitely would like that too. Like you say, I would like to see that Spider-Man, but I don't, on the business end of things, I don't see that as being likely.
Right. Well, I mean, I think Homecoming kind of showed how it could be done. I mean, it was that was a little bit more street level. Like,
Yes.
Vulture was not like trying to take over the universe. It was just him dealing with those problems. I think that's what was so nice about Homecoming.
Yes.
And so I wonder if they can recapture that magic and see where they go from there.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice to see, and a good experiment. But, I'm afraid even if they do that, what might happen, and then of course would ruin it down the line. And, if they tried it for this, it would be great. But if they did do that and it didn't do well,
right.
As well, then suddenly it would be, oh, we got to go back to high stakes.
Honestly, I would be happy if they just did even just one more movie, and it's about him trying to get Zendaya, MJ, to remember,
right,
and like kind of solve that issue, and then wrap it up. Spider-Man, like they just proved that Spider-Mans don't have to go on forever. You can have a different person come. You could do a Miles Morales version of live action Miles Morales version or something like that.
Right. Which I hear maybe introduce him.
Maybe introduce him, and then like the next one could be Miles Morales' movie, and like Peter's still around. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
who knows?
I mean,
with the multiverse, anything's possible at this point.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that does it for our Spider-Man No Way Home review. What did you think of it? Let us know. We'd like to hear what you think. And so we've come to the end of our journey. I want to thank everybody for listening to our podcast. Those of you who stuck with us and kept on listening. Anybody that shared or commented or rated, we really appreciate you guys taking this journey with us. It's been fun. Now it's time for us to rest, but we do want to give a shout out again to Eureka Failure, who's been with us every step of the way. Really appreciate them donating their music to our little podcast, and hopefully you check them out as well. And I just want to thank everybody. And so, Martin, we come to the point where we give you your final words of wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, this is I wanted to come up with the perfect one, and I had so many in mind, but I'm just going to go with a simple one, but I think is apropos. And it's just basically, existence is a fact, but living is an art. So make your art.
Well, there you go. I've got my own words of wisdom to share for this final podcast. Mine's actually a quote from J.P. Morgan, which is kind of a strange place to get a quote. But he said, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are. So I think that kind of feels appropriate for our podcast. We love doing it, but, we're ready to take the next step. So I hope you enjoyed your time with the CinemATL podcast. Any final words before we go, Martin? Doesn't have to be words of wisdom. It should just be like,
No, I just again, I like we've been saying the whole time. Thanks everybody who has listened to us, either once or 120 times. We really appreciate that you guys were listening, and you guys and gals, and everyone who has listened and enjoyed it. And we hope you have enjoyed it. We hope you've learned something along the way. And like Mike said, this isn't the end. It's just a transformation, but we just don't know how long it's going to take for us to think of the new way to come back. And so we'll see you on the other side.
And, we've talked before, like during all of our other episodes, we said we want to hear your feedback. Even now, more than ever, we'd like to hear your feedback. What did you appreciate about the CinemATL podcast, and what would you like to see continue? And if you have any suggestions on, what you would like to hear from us, or see from us, or read from us, or whatever it may be, we're not going to box ourselves into anything. Just let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, all right. For the final time, that's a wrap on the CinemATL podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. See y'all later.